Let's take a look at some charts on BNB, Binance coin, for Brave New Coin. And fun fact, BNB was almost called BNC had it not been for Brave New Coin. So Binance, as most of us are well aware, is an exchange that continues to innovate at a rapid pace. Since Binance was created, it has continued to attempt and exceed most competition in many areas. The most recent being Binance Smart Chain. With CZ's rise to prominence, it was unlikely for me that anyone would ever match that sort of ferocity for competition and innovation. And here comes Sam from FTX, who's just given Binance a run for their money. So right now we have basically DEX wars in various forms. Binance's addition is Binance Smart Chain, FTX's is Solana and Serum and all that stuff. And obviously ETH has a massive network effect with Sushi, Uni, 1inch, and all the yield farming soup that is involved there. The reason why BNB is likely doing so well is because of Binance Smart Chain in the near term, at least relative to ETH fees and the trouble interacting with ETH smart contracts for stuff like microtransactions. So even though I don't believe Binance Coin BNB is even able to be utilized on BSC necessarily, and BNB is more of a utility token for trading fees on the Binance exchange, for the most part, BNB is viewed as a security, essentially, a belief in Binance and the future of Binance. Binance also burns tokens based on profit, which is another marker for a security or a security-like token. I'm not a lawyer. I don't care which country you're in. That's just something to consider. And it's also interesting that BNB is tradable on Binance US. So with all that in taking into account, there's this massive competition between chains and all sorts of realms. You can add ADA and you want ADA in the mix if you want. You can add DOT in the mix if you want. We can talk about security, scaling, and centralization, and how each of these is very different from one another. Binance is definitely higher up on the centralization aspect of things. It's mainly Binance who runs the chain. It's a DEX in name only, I think it's safe to say. It's decentralized Binance smart chain, in that it's mostly Binance who runs the nodes and has governance there. And that may change over time, but that's how things are currently. That's how I see them. If we look at the BNB burns over the past few years, the Q4 2020 burn was the biggest ever. We're going to have another burn at the end of March, which will probably be even bigger than that because Binance trading volumes are probably gangbusters right now. They're insane with the market and the market volatility. Now they're only burning a certain percentage of tokens over time, and then those burns end. So it'll be interesting to see if after the subsidy, the supply subsidy, if price can maintain these highs. Now that's a ways out at this point. It's not happening anytime soon, but it's something to know about, certainly. If we look at some on-chain metrics for the token, transaction counts continue to increase rapidly. Average transaction sizes continue to increase rapidly. I believe these spikes here are the token burns. Spikes in the average transaction values or partially due to token burns, just because they're not sustained and very clearly an outlier. So collectively bullish, right? Transactions rising, more people using the chain, more people using BNB for whatever reason. It's got to be bullish. It's bullish for everything in a vacuum. If we look at active addresses for BNB, active addresses continue to rise. Bullish again relative to price. It's a pretty clear one-to-one correlation. So long as active addresses keep going up, that represents more and more people holding or interacting with BNB on any daily basis, and that should be bullish for the coin. So the on-chain stuff is pretty cut and dry as far as what you see is what you get. If on-chain activity goes up, number go up. Here's Binance Coin Google Trends, which zoomed way out back since 2017, isn't exceeding the all-time high, which is probably near the ICO or actually this isn't the ICO, this is just the mania that was 2017, 2018. So we're almost there on Google Trends, just to tell you how crazy this run-up has been for Binance for the BNB coin over the past few weeks. Now, it was breaking multi-year highs on Google Trends a few weeks ago, and this is really when you want to catch something, when it's very obviously going from 0 to 1 rather quickly. It's a leading indicator for trend, for price, for what's going on in the technicals, because especially with BNB, again, if we go back to these on-chain metrics, it's real simple. Transactions go up, bullish. Active addresses go up in the fill here, bullish. Google Trends rising dramatically, bullish. And you can look at Binance as well. It's probably, okay, so stuff like this tells me that there was some shenanigans with a bot or something who was running up the metrics here. But if we zoom out past 12 months, very clearly worldwide, all-time highs in search interest there. If we look at where, I don't know where this is. Where's St. Helena? No idea. But it's always interesting to poke around in where these spikes are in Google Trends. If we look at technicals, we have the 50-200 EMA, yearly pivots, VPVR, volume, and RSI. I also added a fib extension. This is from the high, the 2019 high to the March 2020 low. We tapped the 10618 extension, and we found support near the 7618 extension, just to give you some idea of where we are. We ran out of yearly pivots to really look at. We're way past the R5 there. There's obviously no volume support up here because it went straight up, so VPVR is no help. The 50 and the 200 are going to take weeks to catch up to price unless price falls dramatically. So on high time frames, there's no support up here whatsoever. This is all very, very fresh price discovery. RSI hit an all-time high. Any higher high on RSI here is definitely going to bear div. So for me, if I were to see prices in the 400s again in the near term, it would be a gift if I had any BNB to sell, because there is no way that there won't be massive bear divs on any of that. This is going to need to consolidate for a considerable amount of time to allow everything to catch up. So again, all the support is below 50, below 100. This is all very new, very quick. And when you get 10x's like this, you get 5x's like this, the strong hands aren't so strong anymore because you're up in such a massive profit. You're very tempted to sell it and buy something else, or just sell it and hold the USD and wait for lower lows. It's really that simple. So yes, this chart is obviously insanely bullish, but the move very much so already happened, right? If we look at the daily cloud, really great trend metric, trend indicator, it was quietly bullish since July 2020. It basically hovered around the cloud, the daily cloud, sheepishly broke above the daily cloud, had several Kijun bounces, had several TK recrosses above the cloud at that point. So we stayed bullish from July to December. Then after December, the afterburners got turned on from January throughout. And this, I don't know the exact dates on this, but I assume this is when the Binance Smart Chain stuff started to take off with Pancake Swap and all the other, I'm going to call it nonsense. All the other nonsense that's going on with DeFi and the food naming and whatever. So the competition ramped up considerably, as did the BNB price. And then it got just to insane euphoria levels as ETH started to roll over. So there was a bit of a rotation trade here from ETH. There was a bit of a healthy competition trade from ETH as people were looking for alternatives. exploiting a weakness of ETH's fees in some way. And you can't really use the daily cloud really on this, using this time frame, because the support, there's support at 200, and then below 200 it goes straight down to 50. So there's really nothing below here. Everything's super thin. The cloud is signaling that. You'd have to look at the 4-hour, and you'd have to tell yourself, okay, we were above the cloud again in late January, broke above pretty clearly, above the Tenkan the entire time. Then we started consolidating here. A bit of a falling wedge situation. Potential bullish recovery off of this is happening right now. And what I'd be looking for is a bullish TK cross with price above the cloud. For me, that's a pretty decent long entry signal on the low time frames. Keeping in mind that you're going to have bearish divergence on any higher highs, on any new all-time high. You're going to have less enthusiasm, most likely. And that will most likely lead to a drop in price shortly thereafter. Just an unsustainable high, basically. So I would keep all that in mind. And looking at BNB BTC, we have a lot of the same types of price action I'd be watching for. We basically rematched the all-time high in 2019. 2019's all-time high was a massive textbook diamond top, which broke down, broke below the 200-day moving average, broke below the cloud. Very classically a reversal. Stayed below the cloud for the rest of 2019, most of 2020. And as Bitcoin had its run up in late 2020, early 2021, BNB lagged considerably. You had a multi-week bullish divergence that definitely outperformed any expectations. There's very clearly a bull trade, a catch the knife type trade to be had here when you see this for alt BTC pairs specifically. When you see a series of lower lows, it's just someone just capitulating, really. I mean, look at this. This is just weeks and weeks of bullish divergence. So you had that, you get your reversal, you get back above the VPVR levels, and all of a sudden just, the afterburners again just get kicked on. So where it's sitting now, I would expect some support at 004 based on the previous diamond top. Based on the cloud, based on the yearly pivot, it's going to take some time for the 200-day moving average to catch up with everything. The real rebuy is probably going to be somewhere in between 002 and 004 based on yearly pivots. Any higher high, again, is going to see a bearish divergence. So for me, this move's kind of done. In this move, it's probably a BTC relative move as well, just like it went from ETH to BNB. We saw a rotation from BTC to BNB as BTC hit those highs and sort of consolidated. So fundamentals on-chain still rather bullish. Innovation spectrum rather bullish. If fees on ETH and ETH struggles continue in general, I expect alternatives to continue to do well in the near term, so long as ETH is unable to fix those issues. BSC is considered an alternative in the view of the public, although in reality I'm not so sure that's the case because of the lack of decentralization there. And BNB and BSC aren't necessarily directly related, but I think people are buying up BNB as a result of the success of BSC. A lot of acronyms in this one. And technicals look insanely bullish, but to me the move is done. You don't move up 45% or whatever it is over and over and over and over again. Eventually a top is found. Eventually people start rotating back to stuff like BTC. They rotate back to stuff like ETH just because the move has already happened. If we just look at BNB ETH real quick, you can see how the decay just continued. This was late 2019. The decay was clear and obvious and just continued. You can see that the market leader, the competitor, just continued to outperform, largely because people didn't necessarily view BNB and ETH as competitors. They do now because of that exchange narrative, that DEX narrative. The DEX wars have begun. And this is where the chips are falling out currently. I don't suspect the BNB strength to continue against ETH over time. This will need to pull back. It will need to find support. somewhere between 0.1 and 0.05 ETH. There's tons of VPVR levels, yearly pivots, reasons that this will bounce somewhere down here. But once again, it's the same thing with this BNB BTC chart. It's unlikely to sustain itself over time. So that's all I have for this one. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments, and happy trading.